We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on the Miami Dolphins wide tight end position and why they desperately need an upgrade. And this sort of discussion, the reason I wanted to make this video and why I was brought up on is because I've talked about Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, taking him at 13 a lot. And I've had a lot of, decent amount of pushback in the comments. And I think most of the, reasons for it are, basically why I wanted to make this video, because I didn't really agree with any of the arguments. I think it's fine not to want a certain player. But I think people have a misunderstanding of the position in this offense. And I really do believe the wide tight end last year, along with guard, was the biggest problem for the whole team. They had the biggest problem as starters. And we'll start off, sort of breaking down Warren. It just doesn't make any sense, because Jonnu, an F tight end means, a move tight end, an H back. You're basically a big slot receiver. Jonnu Smythe barely ever plays in line, on the line, and is involved as a blocker. And if he is involved, he pretty much makes no impact in that area. Or he's out there running a route, which made 11 personnel. 11 personnel. If the Dolphins came out 11 personnel and the tight end was Julian Hill or Durham Smythe, it was more likely they were going to run the ball. And then if they came out in 11 personnel with just Jonnu Smythe as the tight end, it was more likely they were going to pass the ball. So it just added a level of predictability to the offense. And I can do it all. We'll use Tyler Warren as an example, but there is other players that are options. But Warren's the one that kind of started this, so I want to use him. If you can, it's so hard. The reason I'm so for it is because it's so difficult to find a wide tight end that can really do everything. Can be involved in the blocking scheme and then also go out and, run a route, get in the slot. And Warren would be able to do that and need to add even more, because there's you can play as a wildcat quarterback in certain situations, low red zone, short yardage. But when it comes to, the wide tight ends, they can't even block. They were constantly missing assignments, and it's one of the most difficult positions, I think, to actually find a top tier player at. That's why I'm totally for it. And it's a position for Miami, because they run a lot of outside zone, a lot of tosses, where you're trying to spread out the defense horizontally. So a lot of the main point of attacks are with the tight ends and the tackles, and the tight ends missing constant blocks was a big problem. Sometimes even a bigger problem than the Dolphins guards. So this is why, a big reason I think they need to attack that. Constantly losing at the point of attack, and it's a tough job for them to block defensive ends, and we'll see all the different kind of concepts that they're used on. But yeah, it was a big problem for the team. And it also just if you have someone that can go out there and kind of do it all, George Kittle is the perfect ideal tight end for this type of system. You see him in the Shanahan system because he can block, he can go out there and make a difference. The Dolphins kind of have them broken apart, and it just adds that level of predictability. And Jonnu is obviously a big help, but he's a guy that you is only going to play a certain amount of snaps because of that limited ability as a blocker. Because combined, Durham Smythe and Julian Hill played 900 snaps, while Jonnu was in the 600-ish snap range. He outsnapped them solo, but when you can put them together, they played a lot of snaps. It's a lot of, things that they definitely need help with. So, here, this is, sort of, the example to use, because Dolphins, one, they have Julian Hill, who's pictured, and Durham Smythe off picture to the left here. Durham Smythe tries to crack down. They try to even, go out there. So Durham Smythe is lined up out in the big slot. Just because you're a wide tight end doesn't mean you're always in line. That's just how you're listed on the roster. But you'll have to be able to do some other things as well within this system. And I think, that's the reason why they need a true upgrade. One, they have Julian Hill try to help Armstead work a double on this edge. Julian Hill doesn't do even too much here to actually help. I think they struggle to sustain their blocks. And then Durham Smythe is trying to crack down and get a block on this DB, but he creates no movement at all. They're not able to capture this edge, and HN ends up working right into him. It's just pretty poor blocking, and it's just this isn't just one-off stuff. You're seeing a lot of clips of this happening, and a lot of the Dolphins' most effective runs throughout the past 2 seasons are when the tight ends actually did have an effective block. Here is an example of Jonnu Smythe basically playing in line, he's playing a little off here, but he is involved on the move. But he's not going to really do anything. He'll if you see him here, he's just kind of dropping his head into someone, not really creating any movement. His hands aren't good. Durham Smythe gets beat here from a safety. This isn't even an edge defender. I see them lose to edges, and that's fine from time to time. Even if you bring in Tyler Warren, he'll lose to edges too. But at least he has the high-end snaps of him moving a guy out there. But here's just against Kyle Duggar, who's a linebacker safety hybrid. And he just crosses the face of Durham Smythe and gets into the backfield and completely shuts down these plays. And this is the reason it's so important, because they're constantly running outside zone, these tosses, and they're right there at the point of attack of where you kind of need to win. Either, you seal them out or you're able to widen them enough to hit a cutback lane. And they just were constantly losing reps. It's just why it's such a huge need. And it's not just them blocking. And the reason is like, hey, if you find someone that can also be a receiving threat, that can be a big wide tight end, it just adds so much value to your offense. That's why I'm like, this is the class to do it, and that's why I'm totally okay. I'm also just taking Tyler Warren because I'm a big BPA fan of BPA, and I think he would be best player available in a decent amount of situations. But here's another example. Julian Hill losing at the point of attack versus an edge defender. He just gets kind of controlled. You pretty much, I think, he's kind of struggled in a lot of those situations where you want to get around the edge, and like this is just them kind of running a version of end around, and he just loses at the point of attack. And this, like, I think a lot of Julian Hill's best reps came when he could work a double seam, specifically with Austin Jackson. So having Austin Jackson out there definitely helps out the tight ends because, he played the tackle position for them. But yeah, lots to, work through with this team and that position. But you can clearly see he's struggling to kind of sustain and just gets completely taken control of. So when it comes to, these guys out there, like, it's very important that the Dolphins get better at this because and you have to be able to block on the move coming into this system. Dolphins love to use these momentum motions to kick out. And like, this is like one of the rare occasions where Jonnu Smythe is in line, but they're running away from him. They're basically just having him sit on the backside and you just want him to get his body in the way, but he's not really doing too much there. But this is the key point is Julian Hill. They are having him be the kick out. Armstead climbs the linebacker. They work this double team. Everything is actually blocked up pretty decently. Brewer reaches. Jones is going to go out to the linebacker, but this linebacker shoots down unintentionally. If Julian Hill is able to get any sort of kick out there at all, but he's not able to move him at all. Guy gets control of his outside, and then once he sees the running back committed inside, he's able to shed him like it's nothing. And that was just way too common. Like, this happened all the time for the Dolphins. And like, here's another example of just Julian Hill losing at the point of attack. This not time versus a DB who just gets around him. Gets so wide and then bends back. Dolphins, had a little bit of predictability with some of these plays, but just pretty much adding nothing. And even when you watch like Durham Smythe, who's in motion here, it's not like he's like, it didn't matter because the guy's already getting tackled, but it's not like he looks comfortable at all. He's not even using his hands. These guys aren't even trying to use his hands. And it feels like when Durham Smythe, like, I really feel like he ever used his hands watching him block this season, just throws his shoulders and his heads into people. Julian Hill would try to use his hands sometimes, but that's when he would usually get his holding calls. It was just absolutely horrendous to watch. Also, to play tight end in the system, like, especially someone that's going to block, like, right here they have Jonnu in the backfield as like a fullback. But this was not really where you wanted to use him, especially as a blocker. It's just not his game. Like, yes, that's where like sometimes move tight ends will be, but he is pretty much a big slot only. That's why, like, when people talk about him like as the reason not to draft tight end, I'm like, dude, he's basically a slot receiver for you. He'll give you some tight end like reps where like normal tight ends will play, but those will be negative reps for you pretty much. And this is Julian Hill and Jonnu Smythe both losing, not even versus their best edge. This is, Caleb Chason, who's, was kind of known as a bust first round pick. Julian Hill, Jonnu Smythe pretty much get nothing going. Jonnu's not able to kick out after Julian tries to hook him here. They're trying to even work a double, and he still makes the tackle for loss. It was just so often this happened, like just as much as guards losing. As you can see, they try to bring Jonnu back on a kick out. Jonnu misses the kick out on Max Crosby. That's fine. It wasn't a big deal. But then also Julian Hill at the point of attack versus an edge defender as a fullback is kind of swapped this time where he takes it on and he just loses instantly. Also, the guards lose in this specific situation, but Achane had to cut back into it because they're not able to create any movement. They need guys who can get downhill, play with some physicality. And the reason that it'd be so big to have like an upgrade, just even if they brought in someone that just blocked at Y, that was even just an upgrade would be huge. But imagine like how helpful it would be if they had someone who was like that could do those things, like a Tyler Warren, but also made an impact like as a receiver. Think of what George Kittle does for San Francisco, because George Kittle was the best. They would just need someone who can make an impact all around, and also he would be like a red zone threat, which is huge. Dolphins have sometimes trouble converting in the red zone, but here it is. They like to have their guys work on motion. Julian Hill trying to kick out, he takes a poor angle. Jared versus knifes to the inside. He misses at the point of attack. Doesn't get any movement, and the running back like 100% their fault. just because the blitz is coming instantly, so Tua has no time to read, so he has to throw it out to Achane instantly. I don't think Julian Hill and Durham Smythe were expecting to come out instantly because they were kind of like, patiently waiting. They didn't want to get hands-on to get PI or whatever, but they both just look tackled within the backfield. This one's kind of crazy to me because Dolphins love the toss with the momentum motion, and they even try to do it a little bit differently here where, once this edge knifes the inside, it looks like Smythe is going to go after him, but he knifes the inside, which is fine. Now Smythe's going to the next level. It's whatever. But Jalen Waddle, I think, is supposed to, crash down and get a block on him. But Julian Hill in motion, like, if you see this color, a guy like this, you see a helmet of the the opposite team flash in your face unblocked, even if he's not your main assignment to where you think you're going to go, you think the other receivers, you have to throw a body into him. Makes no sense to just let him go by. You already see that he's not getting blocked. And then this literally becomes a negative play. Because if Julian Hill kicks out and blocks this guy, think of this guy getting widened, and he's able to shoot up in there and have a decent chance, because then Waddle has a chance to at least get a body there, Durham Smythe there. This guy who helps actually make the tackle on Paul, if Jeff Wilson didn't have to cut back in, he probably gets around him. So that's just absolutely unfortunate situations, and it's just constant. Here, the Dolphins, they can't do other concepts either. Like, they're running trap wham, which they're leaving these guys unblocked. So 72 is being left unblocked to shoot at field, and you're trapping him with Liam coming across. And the wham is when the tight end comes to kick out. But Julian Hill just, I don't know what he's doing. Like, in these situations, you got to fire down and absolutely take this guy out of the play. But he just, sits there. He's just sitting, waiting, allowing the defensive lineman to work into him. And, if you allow him to work into you, you're not going to move him at all. And then you just absolutely lose, yardage on the play. It's very much tough to watch. But then you have, here's a positive rep of the motion of it happening where Durham Smythe is actually able to get a block there, and Julian Hill actually gets a good block on 99. And this is from 2023. So this was when they were having more effective blocks out there. But you actually get an effective block, throw him to the ground. He's able to throw the tackle. Durham Smythe is actually able to get a body on a DB. They actually both do their job. They both do their job, and it turns into a big 40, 50-yard run in those situations. Here's another example. You're trying to get downhill. You have Julian Hill working a double team with Austin Jackson. He attacks the low hip of 44. He helps create that movement, and then is also able to stick with it, seal it off, and then Jeff Wilson is able to work downhill, and that helped end the first game. When the Titans had effective blocks, the Dolphins' run game worked quite well. And I think having Austin Jackson out there obviously also played a huge part in that. But the Titans looked so bad last year. It was really, really difficult to watch. And here's another situation where, Dolphins, I think this was 4th and short, and they tried to, basically come out with Alec Ingold. They basically came out in 22 personnel with, the guys that are known for blocking. The only receiver out there is Waddle, and then you have out Julian Hill, Durham Smythe. This is another situation where having just an upgraded wide tight end helps, because, one, when you want to go out here in this situation and be like, okay, we're bringing out this package so they think we're going to run the ball, that when you run play action, you actually have a tight end that can be a threat. So then Tua would actually be able to throw it to Durham Smythe, but he's not going to get open. If this is someone that is actually a red zone threat that can be a blocker, but also, this is why this is the tight end draft class to do it, because people out there are actually, capable of both. I think Warren is just a step above the rest of the guys, at least this fits for Miami. You at least have a chance to convert those situations. And there's here's another one where it's play action. The guys are blocking, Durham's able to at least get his guy inside long enough. Tua escapes. Julian Hill, who also was a blocker, late escapes into the play, but Tua kind of just has to chuck it up to him now. But Julian Hill's never going to make that catch. He's never going to make a spectacular catch. He can barely make catches where it's just him wide open versus zone coverage. But if you have a guy in there that can potentially make those plays, these are plays that could also be converted. And then it just also opens up your playbook a lot more. You have more guys that can be physical, middle of the field threats, while you still have your speed on the outside. And then here's another example where you have to be able to seal and kick out on the back end of these runs, which the Dolphins just don't have. And it's a tough ask to do versus edges, but he's not able to get his face across, and then the guy is able to peel off of it very quickly and make that tackle at the line of scrimmage. And here's the example of why Jonnu Smith, he's an F tight end. He's basically just a big slot. In this situation where Julian Hill is also lined up in the slot, but basically Tua's reading this defender. This linebacker opens up his hips and carries Julian. He throws it to Jonnu all day. This is where Jonnu is effective. But also, hey, it works in this situation, but most of the time this linebacker wouldn't see Julian as a threat and he would just stay down. But like if this was another player that had more of a prowess as a receiving threat, that's more of your why, then you can run this stuff and it actually gives you the option to potentially throw this down the field if this linebacker sinks here. But since they're more of a threat, then Jonnu Y tight end, that's why I think it's such a big thing. And even just screens, it's not even just the running game. Dolphins love to run screens. They love to do all their reverses. So like you have to block out in space. Here's another time where they just lose and the receiver gets tackled at the line of scrimmage because Julian Hill was not able to get a block going. And Julian Hill was your main guy. Like he played more snaps than Smythe. Smythe also did nothing out there. Here's another example, like Julian Hill down blocking, trying to get a body on 69. He checks the low hip. He doesn't get any movement on Butler, so he loses there. And since he loses there, there's just pretty much nowhere now to work off of. And then they all rally to the ball. This one's not even that big of a deal because it didn't really matter in the outcome of the... I mean, it kind of mattered, but just watch them. Just watch them. Like, what are these? This is... Oh, man. This is Tweedledum over there. I mean, you know, not to be rude because, you know, they're out there, they're trying, but this is just a funny play, man. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is both tripping over one defender. They need an upgrade there so badly. Here's another example, like where Julian Hill has to, you know, he fires off the ball because he was going to help on, this is his responsibility, attack down on this defender and then climb to 44. He tries to attack down, but since this guy exchanges gaps and crosses face a lamb, he doesn't really need to do that, so he has to make the adjustment to get a body on 44, and then 44 just beats him at the point of attack. This is a linebacker, he's losing versus linebackers' edges. I've seen Durham Smythe lose versus DBs. It's just tough to watch, and it just sucks, because it's a big reason they weren't able to convert on 3rd and 4th and short, and also these red zone situations, which is a big problem with the team. And then this is like another area where like, Jonnu's out one-on-one. I just want to show these because this is what Jonnu does for you as your team. He's winning down in the red area. This is very helpful, but this is not what I'm talking about. This is not what I'm saying when he's playing tight end. He is literally just a receiver for you, pretty much, that will occasionally align as a true tight end, but if he does that, he's pretty much just running routes, and if he is actually blocking, he's not really giving you anything in those reps. It just makes you less predictable, and I think a much better team. It's one of those positions that's very important for the Dolphins system. So, you know, I just wanted to rant about this because if they were able to upgrade and actually get a stud, which I think it's a much harder thing to find a stud Y tight end that can do everything than it is to find like a pretty good guard, which is what the Dolphins need. They just need good guards. They don't need elite guards because it's one of those, like, guard is still one basis, and they do not have that in the Y area. So if you guys really like, comment and subscribe.